Captain America.
Captain America.
Captain America needs my help.
You may be Captain America, but you're not Steve Rogers.
Captain America.
Captain America.
Captain America.
Captain America.
Captain
America.
Captain
Captain America.
Captain
Captain America. 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 Captain America.
So, I've been thinking about the new Captain America movie coming out, and it may not surprise you to learn that I think about Captain America a fair bit, maybe more than most people. I mean, I haven't just been reading Captain America since before the movies came out. I've been reading Captain America basically since I could read. My first experience with Captain America in the film media was the 1990 Captain America movie, and I cannot tell you how disappointing that was, because I just saw it at the video store and picked it up and rented it, and sure, I saw the cover. I wasn't going into it with super high expectations. You see an image, it creates an idea in your mind, and you think, okay, well, I don't know, whatever, it's Captain America, let's check it out, right? This is just tea, but I need something a little stronger. So yeah, that didn't go well. And it would be decades before, the MCU came along and eventually gave me the Captain America movie of my dreams. No, not this one. This is not what I always imagined. It's good, but no, I don't mean this one either. This one is also good. This is not the Captain America movie I always dreamed of. That would be this one, actually. This is the one. This is what I always wanted. And Sam's not even on the cover. Couldn't even get his character on there. Just didn't happen this time. Is he on the back? Kind of. You can kind of see him. There he is, kind of in the corner by the UPC. He's kind of there, almost. Well, where do we start in this journey? At some point, I got a look at the animated Captain America stuff from, I guess, the 70s, whenever that's from. It is not memorable.
But the big question still is, why?
I don't think it's made its way to Disney Plus, and it probably never will. Nor will the 70s Captain America TV stuff, which I've also barely seen.
The old people around here are my friends.
Will any of that make it to Disney Plus with the Incredible Hulk TV show and, those made-for-TV movies where Daredevil defends the Hulk? Yeah, I don't know. Will any of this stuff ever see the broad, bright lights of Disney Plus? Who can say? But me and Captain America, yeah, we go way back. Captain America was the first comic book I ever saw. But for some reason, I picked it up and I just kind of couldn't put it down. I went to the comic book store, they had a 3 for $1 box, and I would get all the old back issue Captain Americas that weren't worth anything that they couldn't sell. And I saw other comics. There was lots of stuff in that box, and I don't know, just none of it really ever grabbed me. I've never been like a big Spider-Man guy. I've read my fair share of Batman titles, but I'll dig out my Batman fatigue syndrome video one day. Spider-Man, Batman, you gotta read a lot of books to really keep up. It feels more like a marketing strategy than a story. I'm sure there have been lots of points in time when that was not the case. And, they've tried that with Captain America 2 to kind of broaden it out, add extra titles, and, never quite worked, never really caught on. And there's been lots of phases of Captain America, different looks, different artists, different writers, people with different ideas, people who wanted to put their own stamp on the character or wanted to adapt the character to their own particular writing style or drawing style, whatever it was. Captain America's always just been kind of lingering there in the background, not like a first string superhero like Batman or Superman or Spider-Man. Doesn't have man in his name. Maybe that's part of the problem. But he was kind of always there, right on the edge of the popular consciousness. Popular enough to be continuously published since the mid to late 60s to now. But it took the MCU to bring Captain America up to the forefront of the popular culture. Why did this movie change everything for this character?
I think it works.
If you're watching this video, you're probably old enough to have been there. The MCU was a game changer, not just for Captain America, but for Marvel. They announced the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and I thought, are they really going to do the talking raccoon and the talking tree? And it was a huge hit that summer, so what do I know? It just turns out that if you do anything well, you can do it and people will accept it. Or you can take two of the most popular comic book characters in the history of comics and make a movie that doesn't make $1 billion in an era where the big movies make $1 billion. It's that George Lucas quote.
You can't do it. You can't destroy these things. It is possible.
Yeah. Captain America, the First Avenger. Do I love the title? I mean, I think it kind of works in the sense that the title tells you this is going to be a period piece, and maybe it's a good idea to let the audience know that going in, since it's the first Marvel period piece. I mean, what is this, like the 5th Marvel movie? Something like that. But is it essentially a commercial for another movie? I would say the title is. I guess you could say it's kind of the opening chapter to the first Avengers movie, and you could argue that the first Thor movie is as well. Does it matter which order you see those in? Yeah, you probably need to see Thor before you see Captain America, the First Avenger. I think that makes sense. Give the audience a quick field guide on Norse mythology. What were those things called? People used in school, the little yellow books. Oh yeah, those things. And I went and I saw the first Captain America movie, and when it was over, I thought, wow, like they didn't screw it up. I'm super excited that they didn't blow it. They got the character right. I wasn't sure I was totally in love with the movie, but the Steve Rogers I knew and loved showed up, and that was the thing that was the most important to me. And then the Avengers happened, and audiences everywhere cheered. I wasn't a huge fan of the third act, but I mean, that's kind of a thing with Marvel movies, right? I really like the character work in the first Avengers movie, but like, who are the Chitauri? Why do they do what they do? I'm still not sure, but I kind of like this look at this in-between Steve Rogers where he hasn't quite got his footing on living in the present.
Ma'am?
And then we get this movie. The movie where Steve Rogers knows how to live in the present. He just doesn't love it. And why would he? He's a man out of time. I like how this movie depicts the character at a low point in every sense of the word. I like how this movie depicts the character at a low point in every sense that he possibly could be, personally, professionally, socially, romantically. Yeah, I mean, obviously Steve is always good at being Captain America, but like, he's not loving it, right? He's fighting with his boss. It's just not a great time. And that is generally the way it is for superheroes, right? It's part of the sacrifice they make to protect the people. You do this good thing and you just get kicked all the time for doing it. It's a basic trope of the genre, right? That's why we love them, because they get kicked and they know they're getting kicked, and yet they keep doing it. You know, that's what makes us connect with them. It's a big part of it, at least. And this is the movie where we meet Sam Wilson. And this Sam Wilson is very different from the comics Sam Wilson. They have totally different origins. And I think the origin story they tell for this Sam Wilson in the MCU works very well, and I think it works well for the MCU overall story that they're telling. If you're not familiar with the comic book Sam Wilson, he was basically a gangster, and the Red Skull thought it would be funny to turn a gangster into somebody that could be a potential ally for Captain America. The Red Skull uses the Cosmic Cube, which is kind of like the Reality Stone in the MCU. The Red Skull uses the Cosmic Cube to alter Snap Wilson's personality, which transforms him into Sam Wilson, superhero and congressional candidate. Yes. Sam Wilson ran for Congress and did not win in the comics, but that's just kind of who his character is. He's this guy who had to choose between going back to who he used to be and the only life he'd ever known, or being Sam Wilson, and he chose being Sam Wilson, not being Snap Wilson. And so that idea of choice is a thing that's very wrapped up in his character in the comics. So the idea that Sam Wilson would become Captain America in the comics never really sat well with me, because who he is very wrapped up in his identity, and to adopt a different identity just to me like didn't seem like a thing that worked for the character. And I think that's what makes me not connect with the story. But this is the MCU, right? It's a totally different character. It's a totally different story. Sam and Steve have a lot in common. And in this version of the story, it makes a lot of sense that Sam would pick up the shield and sort of carry on the legacy, because they're very similar characters. I mean, up to a point. Sorry, I looked over here again. I can't get over that, like, he's barely on the box. Like, he's just like a tiny little thing. Like, you can barely see him. I can barely see him. Oops, annoying. So while I was making this video with my terrible webcam and awful audio recording, I completely forgot about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I'm not surprised that I forgot that that show existed, because the storytelling just isn't very good. The idea that off-screen between Endgame and this show, Sam decided not to be Captain America, it's just not very good storytelling. It's a weird place to start, unless your only goal is having a big reveal of Sam in the Captain America costume. But I have other problems with the show. We won't worry about that today, but generally I would just say it's not particularly memorable. But now we're at a different time, right? Like the Infinity Saga is over, and it's been over for a while, and we're deep in the weeds of the multiverse, and if it's working at all as a story, I mean, clearly Marvel doesn't think so. That's why they're making all these changes. That's probably why this Captain America movie got delayed for a year. It's at least part of it. And will these next two Avengers movies just wrap up the multiverse? Who knows? But at this point, I don't know, are we on like the 30th Marvel movie? Like, do we even want this? And for me, yeah, I kind of do. I really like Sam Wilson as a character, and I really like Anthony Mackie playing that character. So at this point, how much MCU do I need? Way less than they're giving us. But will I see this movie in the theater? I probably will, if I can squeeze it in and it stays in theaters longer than a week. There's something about Sam Wilson, there's something about Captain America, regardless of who is actually Captain America at the time, that just kind of gets me motivated. I don't know, it's just something that gets me excited about the story, the ideals, the conflict of those ideals. Like comic book John Walker compared to MCU John Walker, woo, no comparison. Maybe don't open that Wikipedia file. So, I mean, I think for me, this is a place I want to go, but I mean, look, I'm pretty deep in the weeds, like, is this going to be for everybody? I don't know. I mean, if this whole MCU multiverse situation can be salvaged is anybody's guess.
With the lights out, it's less dangerous. Here we are now. Entertain us.